Is the US really about to slam the door on all Chinese students? It sounds crazy, but that's exactly what a new bill in Congress is proposing. In a move straight out of the Cold War, lawmakers are pushing a blanket ban on student visas for Chinese nationals, meaning nearly 300,000 students could be barred from American universities overnight. This isn't a dystopian what if, it's a real bill with real consequences. Bold national security move or colossal self-own? Let's break it down. What is the Stop CCP Visas Act? Meet the Stop Chinese Communist Prying by Vindicating Intellectual Safeguards in Academia Act. Yep, that mouthful shortens to Stop CCP Visas Act. Introduced by Representative Riley Moore, RWV, on Capitol Hill, this bill aims to halt the issuance of all student visas to Chinese nationals. Moore and his co-sponsors, a handful of House Republicans with a Senate companion bill in the works, are not mincing words about why they want this. The rationale? Espionage. Moore argues that the Chinese Communist Party, CCP, has been exploiting our student visa program to embed spies in our universities, steal cutting-edge research, and even surveil US military activities. In his own fiery words, we've literally invited the CCP to spy on our military, steal our intellectual property, and threaten national security. He points to recent incidents, like a group of Chinese students charged by the FBI for photographing US-Taiwan military exercises, as proof that this cannot continue, and he's convinced the only solution is to turn off the spigot completely. In plain English, shut down Chinese student visas now. So, the bill's purpose is crystal clear. National security first, even if it means cutting off one of the world's largest sources of international students. If passed, no student from China would be allowed to get a visa to study in the US period. It's a blunt instrument, and it raises a ton of questions. Let's talk about what this could actually mean beyond the political soundbites. Implications. Security versus economy and academia. Now, banning hundreds of thousands of students isn't just about sticking it to Beijing. It could hit America's own wallet and brain power hard. Let's start with the economic impact. Chinese students have been a massive presence on US campuses for years. In fact, about 370,000 Chinese students studied in the US in the 2018-2019 academic year, roughly one-third of all international students. And they weren't just taking selfies in Times Square. They contributed nearly $15 billion to the US economy in 2018 alone. That's tuition money, rent, food, travel, billions pouring into American colleges and college towns, supporting jobs and local businesses. Universities have come to rely on this influx of cash. So if we suddenly ban Chinese students, boom, there goes a huge revenue stream for higher education. Fewer paying students means less funding for programs and research, and potentially higher costs shifted onto domestic students. Is our economy ready to take that hit? Then there's the academic and innovation fallout. This isn't just about money, it's about talent. Chinese students, especially at the graduate level, are deeply embedded in America's research and innovation ecosystem. Don't take my word for it. Check the stats. Chinese nationals now make up about 16% of all STEM graduate students in the United States, and an even higher share in critical fields like artificial intelligence, around 27%. That is a huge portion of the next-gen scientists and engineers in our labs. These are people working on cancer research, quantum computing, clean energy, you name it. And here's the kicker. The vast majority of Chinese STEM students don't just take their US degrees and run back to China. Historically, 85 to 90% of Chinese PhD graduates in STEM have stayed in the US long-term after graduating. They work for American companies, teach in American universities, pay taxes, start businesses, file patents, contributing to American innovation. Since 2000, over 50,000 Chinese STEM PhDs have remained in the US, driving cutting-edge research and even founding startups valued around $100 billion collectively. Think about that. Some of the tech and medical breakthroughs happening in America today have Chinese student alumni behind them. So if we shut the door on all these students, we're not just keeping out a few spies, we could be losing an entire generation of bright minds that help fuel our economy and scientific leadership. Even members of the US defense and tech community have warned that outcompeting China means attracting the best talent, not pushing it away. On the flip side, supporters of the ban say, well, we can't risk even one spy among them. They argue the CCP can coerce any Chinese citizen to hand over intel, citing China's national security laws that compel Chinese nationals to assist in state espionage under threat of retaliation. In their view, academic collaboration with China has been a naive mistake that gave Beijing a backdoor to leap ahead using our research. It's a classic security versus openness dilemma. Do we sacrifice a bit of openness to feel safer, or does that sacrifice actually make us weaker by other measures? That's the debate. Let's not forget the diplomatic and cultural hit here too. American campuses have been a place where young Chinese and Americans learn from each other, build friendships, maybe challenge each other's ideas. That's soft power for the US, an advantage you can't really put a dollar sign on. If we ban Chinese students outright, you can bet Beijing will paint the US as hostile and xenophobic, and those bridges might burn. Meanwhile, other countries, think Canada, UK, Australia, would be more than happy to welcome the talent we turn away. Long term, could this isolation hurt America's global standing? It's a question worth asking. We've been here before, sort of. Historical parallels. This isn't the first time the US has targeted Chinese nationals with restrictive policies. For some context, let's rewind. In 1882, the US passed the Chinese Exclusion Act, the first major law to ban immigration from a specific national ethnic group. It explicitly barred Chinese laborers from coming to America and even prevented Chinese already here from becoming citizens. That law stayed in force for over 60 years. It was born from xenophobia and economic fear back then, and today it's remembered as a shameful chapter of American history. Now, the Stop CCP Visas Act isn't about laborers or permanent immigration, and it's supposedly about national security, not racial animus. But many critics hear echoes of that old prejudice. Banning a whole people based on nationality in any context has a pretty ugly historical ring to it. Jump to the Cold War era. After the Communist Revolution in China, 1949, Chinese scientists and students in the US fell under deep suspicion. One famous example is Qian Suisen, a brilliant Chinese-born rocket scientist who had studied and worked in America. During the Red Scare, the US government accused him of being a communist sympathizer and essentially forced him out of the country. The result? He was deported back to China, where he went on to become the father of China's missile and space program. Yes, the US literally kicked out a genius who then helped China make missiles that now threaten US forces. As one analysis put it, this saga is a stark reminder that racial prejudice and paranoia can backfire badly on US national security. History biting us in the behind, anyone? In more recent years, we've seen a roller coaster of US policies on Chinese students and scholars. Under the Trump administration, tensions spiked. In 2018, the US started tightening visa durations for Chinese STEM students. And in 2020, Trump signed a proclamation banning entry of Chinese grad students with ties to Chinese military universities. Over 1,000 visas were quickly revoked under that order, as high-risk students were shown the door. Even then, officials framed it as targeting a small subset of Chinese students, not a wholesale ban. And still China's government blasted it as political persecution and racial discrimination. Fast forward to the Biden era. In 2022, the Justice Department actually shut down the China Initiative, a Trump-era program that was prosecuting espionage and tech theft cases because it had sparked accusations of racial profiling against Chinese researchers. The DOJ basically admitted that singling out China as a category had created a toxic perception that if you're Chinese, you're suspicious. That tells you how fraught this issue is, balancing legitimate security concerns with American principles of non-discrimination and openness. So, the Stop CCP Visas Act lands into this historical context hot. Its supporters say this is a new era. The CCP is a unique threat and requires drastic action. Its opponents reply, we've seen this movie before and it doesn't end well. Asian American groups are already gearing up to fight it, likening it to the dark days of outright Chinese exclusion. And many in academia are alarmed, warning that fear-based policies could choke the very engine of innovation that keeps the US ahead. Here's the bottom line. The Stop CCP Visas Act is as controversial as it sounds. On one side, you have the argument that desperate times call for desperate measures, that by shutting out Chinese students, America can finally stop bleeding secrets and protect itself from an aggressive rival. On the other side, you have the warning that such a blunt ban would undercut America's own values and interests, turning away talent, money, and goodwill, and possibly even fueling anti-Asian hatred at home. It's a double-edged sword, no doubt about it. So what do you think? Is banning Chinese student visas a smart way to safeguard national security? Or is it an overreaction that will cost America more than it gains? Is the US putting its safety first or shooting itself in the foot? This debate is just heating up and the stakes are sky high for our security, our economy, and the soul of our education system.